Right, hi everyone, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a topic that I haven't actually seen very many other people talk about at all, but I think it's something that can be really, really important and could be quite easily overlooked, and that is the order that you choose to solve your third and fourth centers in with the Hoya method. So let's quickly take a look at this. I've got solved cross edges already just to demonstrate, but imagine you finish solving your first four centers and your cross color is on the top and the other center is on the front. You can just do an x2 rotation and that's not that bad. Or, you might end up with your cross color on the front, the other color on the bottom. You just do one rotation, or you could end up with it like this, one rotation, and that's pretty good. What you don't want to do is end up with your cross color on front and the other center on the top, because then if you do a rotation like that, you need to do a Y2, which is really awkward. Or, if you end up like this, you have to do a Z2, which is also really awkward. So today I'm going to be talking about how you can prevent both of those things just by making a couple of smart decisions during your solve that shouldn't cost you any time at all. Okay, so before we get into it, I do just want to make a quick point, and that is that I don't think color neutrality is worth it for Hoya. And that's because let's imagine you solve either one or two cross colors, say white only or white and yellow. Then whether or not you solve one or two colors, whatever happens every solve, you're guaranteed to be able to choose between at least four different first center colors. And that's already a lot of choice. So chances are you're going to have a good starting option. And secondly, you do need to know your color scheme relatively well, especially on even layered cubes. So trying to be color neutral just makes that a little bit harder. And I don't think that's worth the sacrifice. I do think it's worth it to be dual neutral over solving just on one color every time. And I'm going to talk a bit more in depth about that in a minute. So the first thing to cover, after your third center's done, there are so few places, especially on a smaller big cube like 4x4 or 5x5, there are so few places for the rest of the unsolved centers to go that you're pretty much guaranteed to get a lucky case or a good case, whichever center you look at next. Therefore, the vast majority of the time, whatever you see first isn't going to be significantly better or worse than any other option. So you can be smart in how you choose which center you want to do. And I think, especially on 4x4 and potentially even on 5x5 as well, that's true for third center as well. So let's have a look at this quickly. Let's say we've solved our first two centers and we end up with this. And we can see very quickly on the cube that we've already got a half center made for every single one of the different colors. I didn't actually set this up. I just did a hand scramble, solved the first two centers, and I got this. And so if we look around a bit more, we can see, the other two white pieces are here. We've got a 4-move center. Like, that's really, really easy. But so many of the other cases you're going to get are going to be like that as well. So it's really about choosing a specific order to make sure that you can avoid those awkward rotations that I mentioned before. You should absolutely never need to do a Y2 or a Z2 rotation before starting your cross edges. It's very easy to avoid having to do this just by choosing a good order. And that should mean, if you do it properly, the biggest rotation you'll ever need to do before starting your cross edges is an X or an X prime rotation, which is not bad for Lookahead at all. And the transition between your first four centers and your cross edges is a really, really important part of the Hoya method. And that's not a step that you want to ruin the Lookahead or the overall flow of the solve. So I'll start off by showing what to do if you only solve on one color. And for this demonstration, I'll be assuming that you solve on white only. And so what we can think about straight away is that because we're always solving our cross on white, that means yellow is always going to be one of our last two centers. So we never need to solve the yellow center until we get to last two centers. So I think it's a sensible idea, if you only solve on one color, to solve that color as your third center every single time. Because you're going to need to solve it at some point, so you might as well solve it straight away, so that you don't have to rotate to solve it if you get it from the wrong angle. So here we can make a white bar like that. Then we've got our other two pieces there. And so now we've got our white center done. Now what you want to do is you want to put it on the back face and then solve your fourth center on the top. And here we know that because we've got white on the back, red on this side and orange on this side, we know that our fourth center is going to be blue. So I'll build the blue center on the top. I might, at some point rotate to put it on the back, and then we can insert pieces directly into the back. And in this case, we didn't even need to do a rotation at all. We're all ready to do our cross edges. Now, if you don't do your cross color as your third center, let's say in this case, again, we've got first two centers done and you can see all the green pieces. So you just want to go ahead and solve them straight away. That's fine. But now if we look at our color scheme, we've got red on the left, green on the front and orange on the right. This means that white needs to be on the bottom. So we obviously need to do white next. So we'll rotate, have it at the top. We can solve it something like that. But now we've got white on the top and it needs to be on the bottom. We can't just do an X2 because that puts green on the front. So we have to do a Z2. Or if we get it from this angle, something like X prime Y2. And as you can see, that's really not a good thing to be doing. It's quite restrictive. So if we go back to this original position where we've only got 3 centers solved, we can see that by solving green first, with specifically red on the left and orange on the right, we've actually locked ourselves into having to do that rotation already. So even if you see a nice case, something like this, where you can see all of the pieces of one center, even if it's not your cross color, it's probably not a good idea to do it because you might inadvertently lock yourself into that rotation. This won't happen every time because, for example, if you had orange on the right and then red on the left and you solved green on the front, then white would need to go on top and that would be fine. But, it's quite a lot of information to process, where your centers already are and then having to map out the whole color scheme in your head while you're trying to solve. So I don't recommend that. What I recommend is just solving your cross color first every single time so that you can go straight into solving whatever case needs to go on the back, and then you don't have to do a rotation a lot of the time. So then now if you're dual neutral, then there are 2 main options because obviously you're going to be solving on either one of 2 colors. In this example, I'll be using white and yellow. And so let's say you get to this point, again, you've solved our first 2 centers and you can see something nice. You can see yellow, we've got 2 edge pieces here and a bar there, so we can make a nice 2x3 in not very many moves. So we just go ahead and do that. And then we can see our next few pieces here. We can pair them up like that and make our center. Now, because this is yellow, it's going to be our cross center. So what we need to do is treat it exactly the same as I just showed you on the 4x4. If you solve your third center as your cross color, you're going to solve it and then put it on the back face and then solve the top color center, which in this case is blue. So I would go ahead and solve blue like that. And as you can see now, we've already got yellow on the bottom, so we can go ahead and solve our cross edges on yellow. So now let's look at the other example. In this case, we can see a really nice case on green. Again, we've got our first 2 centers solved. We're going to solve our third center, and straight away, we've got a nice 2x3 block like that. And we're noticing now that green is not one of our cross colors, so this is going to be the center on the back. So we're going to solve the rest of our green center as our third center. And then what we want to do this time is put it on the bottom. And now we're going to solve our fourth center on the front. And this will be our cross color. So in this case, it's white. So we can solve our center like that. And as you can see, I've already put it on the bottom. Solve our last bar. And now we're ready to transition into cross edges straight away. And again, we don't have to rotate at all. So just to go over that quickly again. You've got your first 2 centers done. If your third center is one of your cross colors, i.e. either white or yellow, then you want to put that on the back and then solve your fourth center on the top. And then you can rotate and solve cross edges like this. If, however, your third center is not one of your 2 cross colors, then you want to put it on the bottom and solve your fourth center on the front. And this will become your cross color. And then you can rotate ones afterwards if you need to and solve your cross edges. And like I said before, you might be used to just looking for whatever's the best case to solve as your next center, as your either third or fourth center. But a lot of the time, the cases you get are going to be very comparable, especially on 4x4 and 5x5. So it's really honestly not worth looking and trying to decide whether you think one case is better than another just to solve it. It's a bit better to follow this set order. Especially if you only solve on one color, then I'd recommend solving your cross color as your third center every time, because I just think that makes it a lot easier, especially to know, where you need to solve your next center and what color that's going to have to be, knowing your color scheme. So the reason why I do think this means that dual neutrality is better than just solving on one cross color is because it doesn't limit you to solving a specific color as your third center. Because as I've shown in the examples, if you only solve on one color, then you are slightly restricted to solving one center color as your third center all of the time. And if that does happen to be not a very good case, on 4x4 it might happen you get like 3/4 of a center already done and you want to do that, and you can't use it because it's not your cross center, then that's not as efficient as it could have been. Whereas if you're dual color neutral, then you can take the time to look and see if there's a really easy third center case, then you can go and do that color, whatever it happens to be. And all you need to look at is whether it's one of your potential cross colors or whether it's not one of your potential cross colors. You just need to be able to differentiate between two things, and then you can either put it on the back if it's your cross color or put it on the front or the bottom if it's not your cross color. So overall, I think it's easiest to think and make decisions on the spot during third center if you are dual neutral, and that's why I think it's most worth it. And also because you already have so much choice when you're solving as dual neutral, I don't think color neutrality is worth it, because any advantage it gives you is not going to be enough of an advantage for how much more difficult it is. Now, I've been showing you on 4x4 and a 5x5 so far, but I do want to say as well that for 6x6 and 7x7, it is a bit more likely that you might end up seeing or possibly preserving a case on one center, and that makes it significantly better than the next best option, because you can get quite bad cases, especially on bigger cubes. So for this reason, I do highly recommend you at least try to become dual neutral if you're not already. It shouldn't be too much of a step. It's certainly not as big of a step as it is to become fully color neutral, and I do believe it's definitely worth it as it's a lot less restrictive. Okay, so just to round the video out, I'm going to give you a couple of examples on both 4x4 and 5x5 for what to do if you only solve on one color or if you can solve on two. So the first one I'm going to do on 4x4, and I'm going to give you an example of how I would do it if I was only looking to solve on white cross. So straight away I can see that blue is not bad. Or there's also red, actually. I might do red instead. Yeah, I'm not amazing at being super efficient on 4x4 centers, but it's the order that's important. So yeah, I'm going to do red first. This centerpiece is going to come up here, and so I'm going to make my next bar with this one, and then I've got my last two here. Like that. I'm going to rotate and I'm going to insert them into the side. And so, yeah, so I've got first two centers done, and I know I'm only on white, so I'm going to straight away make this white bar. I'm not going to look at these two bars here because, chances are there's only two pieces. They're probably going to come up again later down the line anyway. So I'm going to make that bar, and I don't see anything else here, so I'm immediately going to check the back here. And now I've got these two here, and instead of solving them down to the bottom, remember we want to put our white center on the top and then move it to the back. So I'm going to bring them up like this. And now I can see I've got white on the top, orange on this side, red on this side. So I know this center needs to be green. So I'm going to rotate like this. I'm going to make a bar in the back there, rotate again. So now white's on the bottom, so I don't need to rotate at all anymore. I can finish off my last bar with this piece, and put it back here. And if I look around, I might see this red cross edge. That's not going to move at all when I do that. So I'm going to look out for the other red edge just in case I see it. There it is. So now I know I can go straight into solving those two pieces in my cross edges. Same again here, but on a 5x5 this time, I'm going to only solve on white again. So straight away I'm seeing orange. I can make a nice 2x3 with those two pieces like that. And then I've got my other ones here, here, and here. So that's the first center. Make another bar like that. Then this bar, again, insert into the side so I don't have to do extra rotations, and insert this into here. Now, again, straight away, you might see that we've got this square, which is really nice on blue, but because we're only solving on white, we want to make sure we stick to solving our cross color next. And we can actually make a square like that in just 4 moves with this piece and these two. Like that. Then we rotate again, and now we've got this and this and this corner. So I'm going to build my third center like that. And again, instead of doing that last R wide prime move there to put the center on the front, because I know I'm going to want to put it on the back eventually, I'm going to do a 3L wide prime to bring it up to the top. So then I only need to do one rotation to get it onto the back, and I can build my next center on the top, which is blue. And actually this case has been preserved, which does, re-emphasize what I was saying earlier, how chances are you're going to get lucky cases anyway, fairly often, whatever order you do your centers in. So it's best to just optimize to avoid rotations like that. So again, we can do our next bar like that to make a 2x3, then rotate again, put it on the back, and I can solve this bar like this, insert it into the back, and immediately go into my cross edges without needing to rotate at all. Okay, and now a couple of examples with dual neutrality. So straight away I can see red and orange bars, so I'm definitely going to want to do either red or orange. I'll probably start off with red because I know this bar is going to stay where it is on the back if I do it from this angle. And then the other pieces are here and here. So I'll do those first. So I can do that, then make the bar like that. It does break this one up, but I know I can just undo that move, then insert that piece there. So now I rotate, and I would see this bar. I would have seen this bar from before, but I'd have to rotate anyway, and then I'd see green, so I probably would look for green first, and the other piece is here. So again, I don't necessarily want to solve this center on the bottom. So what I'll do is I will sort of do, instead of doing like a wide R2, I'd probably do like a wide R prime and then a wide L prime to bring it to the front, so I can check. I know that my next center is going to be on top because this is not my cross color, and I know it's going to need to be white. So here we go. I can make a bar like this. Again, put it on the bottom, and then insert this last bar. No rotation needed. Finally, back on 5x5. I'm not going to think too much about this. I'm just going to go with green because I see this bar and this bar and this. So I'm going to build the 2x3 like that. Got a piece here, a piece here, and a piece here. So I'm going to solve those two, and then these two like that. And then I can make a square with these pieces like that, expand it with this, and then here I'd probably rotate this way so that I've got these. I can solve these, and then I can insert them on the right without having to rotate. Now I probably, because I can see more yellow pieces, I'd probably go with yellow here. So I'll make a bar like that, the middle bar, then these, which I saw earlier. I can see this one down here as well, and I can't see the other one, so I'm gonna bring it up, and it's down here. And again, don't necessarily want to solve this center on the bottom, especially not in this case because it's yellow. It's going to be our cross center. So I'll sort of bring it to the front like that, or maybe even I might just bring it to the top like that because I know I now need to solve this center that's on the front. I'm going to put this on the back, solve this center now that's on the top, which I can do like that, and then this last bar here, and it's going to go into the back. And as you can see, yellow's already on bottom, so I might track, you know, this edge or maybe this one, and I can go straight into cross edges like that. So there you go. I hope that shows with those examples how you can effectively cut down on your rotations, especially during third and fourth center, just by being smart about how you choose which order to solve them in. And once again, I know I've mentioned it quite a lot already, but I really, really do recommend that you try being dual color neutral if you can to solve big cubes with the Hoya method, because I really, really do think it's worth it, more so than just solving on one color. And I hope this video has shown that. So yeah, this is something, as I said, that I haven't heard many people talk about, but I do think it can be optimized with actually very little effort. So do watch out for that in yourselves. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching.